that people learn when they feel that they're succeeding, because nothing succeeds as well as success. The Suggestopedic system, devised by Georgi Lozanov, a doctor and psychotherapist in Bulgaria, tries to take into consideration all of the factors that make for easier learning and systematize it. My understanding of Suggestopedia is that there are 4 fundamental principles. The first is that everything must be positive, including mistakes. When students make mistakes, they're actually learning something new. Second principle is to send the same information to long-term and short-term memory simultaneously. And the whole theory of Suggestopedia is based on giving information of strong intensity and weak intensity at the same time. And in that way, students don't forget after 4 days. Third principle is that people seem to remember much more when emotional meaning is given to all information. The fourth principle is, before people analyze, they assimilate. Once people have assimilated things, they have greater pleasure and greater facility in analyzing. These then are the fundamental principles of Suggestopedia. What it looks like in practice is the students have a text which has been specially written, most often by the teachers themselves. The reason we use specially written texts is to get rid of any negative suggestions and to focus on positive situations where the students can feel safe, open up, take chances, and know that they're at no time in danger. There are 14 characters, and the students, each one of them, will play one of the roles of the 14 characters. Each lesson begins with a prelude where the teacher pre-teaches everything that's supposed to be learned, followed by a concert reading where the teacher reads the text to a background of classical music. Following this reading, we have the decoding session where the teacher gives a lot of memory hooks so that the students remember almost everything through a series of little anecdotes and fairy tale stories. Following this, we have a series of quick-moving activities, including games that could be ball games and card games, jokes, little sketches, little competitions, all kinds of things, riddles, movement games, which reinforce the things that we've seen in our texts. Following this, we have a relaxation concert using Baroque, late Baroque music in fact, written mostly between 1700 and 1750, that brings about a state of relaxation. And this is particularly useful for taking vast amounts of information in. And so the teacher, in a sense, is a perceptual engineer and an architect of an environment where students are learning through their own learning strategies. Those who are predominantly visual are going to get enough visual stimulus to be able to learn what they're learning. Those who are predominantly auditive or auditory are going to learn through their ears, and they'll have enough to actually learn from that standpoint. And those who are kinesthetic will have plenty of leeway to move about as much as it's necessary for them to move about to be able to learn. See you here in Vancouver. Vancouver is one of the most fantastic cities in Canada, and I'm so glad that you could all make it here. I noticed that Cindy Mills over here has come all the way from Ireland. Cindy is a civil servant. She works for the government. She's a civil servant, and she comes from Limerick. Limerick is right in the middle of Ireland, and of course she's Irish. And next to Cindy, from the very instant the students come into the classroom, they take on a new identity. The purpose of this identity is to bring about a break with any unpleasant memories that they might have about their past learning experiences. And in fact, throughout the entire duration of the course, the students will know each other by these new suggestopedic identities. Each one of these identities contains a particularity of the language. If you listen for a moment or two, you'll hear that the name, first name, and the town, as well as the profession of almost all of the identities, correspond to one vowel or consonant sound. This man over here is rather unusual, and his job is even more unusual than he is. This man is Gray Way, and Gray comes from Ames, Iowa, USA. He's American. He's a spaceman. He spends more time flying around the world, but literally flying around the world, than actually at home in Ames. So it's nice to see you here. Was your last trip to the moon an interesting one?
Yes, I've met some Russians over there.
You met some Russians on the moon? The gentleman next to Gray Way is Thornton Thunder. And Thornton Thunder is a Scotsman from the extreme north of Scotland. He's from Thurso. And he's got a rather unusual profession, even more unusual than Gray Way. He's a soothsayer. A soothsayer, it's an old English word for somebody who predicts the future, who can tell you what's going to happen tomorrow, next week, next year, etc. And it's a very, very useful thing to be, and Thornton is a very, very useful friend to have. So we have Thornton, we have Gray, we have Sue. After all of the identities have been distributed, there's a kind of recapping so that the students realize that these will be the identities that they are going to have. All the words together in English. I'm Irish. Everybody?
I'm Irish.
Good. Okay. Any other nationalities? One of the most effective means of working on pronunciation particularities is by introducing a situation which is just so outrageous that nobody can possibly feel any guilt about having made a mistake. I'm from Ames. I'm from Ames. Ames. Absolutely, Ames. Because we have two sounds in English. Everybody? And now, the difference is no vocal cords, and is with the vocal cords. Okay? And if you want to have more fun than you might have had since the age of 18 months, I've got a terrific game for you. It makes you sound a little bit like a boat, but it's great fun, and people know you're coming 5 minutes before you arrive, okay? All right? In this particular case, the problem is that in Dutch there doesn't seem to be a z sound, but just S's, we say like book, books. Everybody? Books. Okay, but with bag, a g is just a k with the vocal cords. It's bags. Bags. Everybody? Bags. Okay, fantastic. And I have a little story for you. The old activity left off. I've got a few little inventions here that it might be interesting for you to try to sell to other people. They're not very easy inventions to sell. Yes, okay, it's a very economical invention. Okay, and Sue, this is something which I don't know if you'd be interested in having, but if you're recruiting a lot of people, you could advise them to have these special, well, what are they called? They're called chewing gum lockets. It's,
oh, yes. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Really? Students are encouraged to express themselves just as soon as they feel ready. At the beginning, almost no corrections will be made because the important thing is the students are talking. Little by little, as the Suggestopedic cycle goes on, the students will receive indirect or invisible corrections, and towards the end of a Suggestopedic course, there may be even more blatantly open corrections made. But at this point, no corrections in either grammar or pronunciation. Yeah, you should definitely promote this product amongst job applicants and things like that. Good.
You have quite a lot of losses around in Scotland, haven't you?
Yes, small.
More convenient for you if you stand? No, okay. Listen, Gray, do you ever have problems waking up?
Oh, every morning.
Every morning, yeah. And do you also hear then that great sound of an alarm clock, which is a lot of noise?
Oh.
A A lot of activities are done as pair work. This gives students a maximum amount of talking time. It also enables the teacher to float around, assess the level of the students, see what difficulties are arising, and make subtle corrections on a one-to-one basis, where students are never embarrassed by the fact that the whole group is listening.
And it is without air in it, so you can lock it.
Keep fresh.
Yes, so your gum stays fresh, and after an hour talking to each other,
use it again.
you can open it and use it again. So.